Hello there everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Verdict. I'm delighted to be able to present this edition where we're going to cover all that happened at Epsom over the weekend. Friday was Oaks Day, Saturday was Derby Day, and I've picked out 6 races of particular interest, the obvious ones, and a couple of others as well that I think you will enjoy looking back on. Let's start on the Friday with the Coronation Cup. Just a small field went to post over the mile and a half for this Group 1, and Westover was quite well supported in the market, a 5-2 favourite. Emily Upjohn was 11-4, 7-2 Point Lonsdale, Hurricane Lane 4-1, and Tons was at 15-2, the German Raider. So let's have a look and see what happened out there in this Coronation Cup, which was won by Emily Upjohn, who got the better of Westover and Point Lonsdale. Stall 1 for Frankie and Emily Upjohn. Stall 3 for Westover, Rob Hornby, and stall 4, Point Lonsdale, Ryan Moore for Aidan O'Brien. We had a quick round, really good flat racing ground, and on the Friday I think horses were letting themselves down perhaps a little bit better than some did on the Saturday. It certainly firmed up overnight despite the water that was put on between Friday and Saturday. The first thing to say about this is that obviously they're going uphill, but this was quite a steadily run contest. The finishing speed percentage was not what I would have expected. It was 113.96. Emily Upjohn finishing off the race 13.96% quicker in the final 3 furlongs than she ran the rest of the race. Now, that two things at play there. One, it was quite a steady gallop set by Point Lonsdale with a big white face, and 2, she has got a blinding turn of foot which enabled her to finish off very quickly. She's held up by Frankie, who's very confident out the back. I think he rides her like he knows she's a really good horse, and we know that from last year in the Oaks where she was unlucky that she'll handle the track all right. She's got the hood on, which has really helped her. She now settles pretty well, and that hood has been a great asset. John and Thady Gosden, brilliant when they apply headgear, and this has really worked for her. Hurricane Lane's made his way to the front now. The ground was too quick for him. He'll drop away once they start to sprint in the final 4 furlongs. This was a race that really did turn into a 4 furlong dash, in my opinion. The winner was absolutely electric, though, through those 4 furlongs, meaning that this race was 2.63 seconds quicker than the Oaks, which we will get to a little bit later on. Frankie cantering out the back, but it's what Emily Upjohn does through furlongs 9, 10 and 11, according to the course track sectionals, which really impress. He will angle her out, and then she quickens very smartly. The 9th furlong, 11.2. The 10th furlong, she's gone sub-11, 10.52. And she backs that up with another sub-11, 10.9. Nothing could live with her. Here we go. She's about to fire the first of those quick sectionals. She's done it, 11.2. And she surges past Westover. Now, Rob Hornby's come in for a little bit of criticism for his ride on Westover. I think that's absolutely unfair. There he is. What more could he have done on this horse? He's a strong stayer. Perhaps he could have kicked a bit earlier, but he wouldn't have beaten Emily Upjohn. She's just got too much speed for the Westover, and she's got too much for Point Lonsdale as well. Westover, to his credit, keeps going. He was outpaced. She readily went past him. She put 3 or 4 lengths between herself and him, but he rallies in the 12th furlong, and in fact he's the fastest through the last furlong at 11.87. But bear in mind, Frankie has eased her down a little bit in the closing stages. But he's a very strong stayer, and there's no doubt that Westover could have done with a better gallop. He's never going to be able to cope with a horse who can sprint like Emily Upjohn did here, off that steadyish gallop early on. And we often get steady gallops over a mile and a half here because, of course, they're going uphill to start with, and jockeys are trying to preserve as much energy as possible. But what was impressive about this was just the raw speed that Emily Upjohn's got. She was absolutely electric out there. This shot will show you how quickly she surges past her rivals. Angled to the outside by Frankie. They're all niggling away, and she's gone. She's gone in a matter of strides. That was very, very impressive from her, and I have no doubt with that amount of speed that she has in her locker, she could come back to 10 furlongs. She'd be just as effective, in my opinion, over 10. She's got enough speed, perhaps for a Coral Eclipse. She'll get the sectionals from the boys as well, and she's going to be pretty hard to beat in Grade 1 company this year. She was massively impressive here. Westover has run well. I wouldn't criticise Rob Hornby at all for the ride. Westover just lacks a change of gear that Emily Upjohn has got. Irish St Ledger, you'd think, for Westover, that might be ideal. And it'll be fascinating to see where John and Thady Gosden want to go with the really fast Emily Upjohn. She's a massive unit as well. She's developed pretty well over the summer physically, and there could be more to come from her. Really impressive in the Coronation Cup. Hurricane Lane, Point Lonsdale, perhaps a bit disappointing in behind, but Frankie Dettori coming back to roars and applause from the crowd, and the flying dismount, as you might expect from a tremendously classy filly. Let's move on to the 3:45 at Epsom on the Friday. It's the Bedford Handicap. It's over 1.25 miles. Cambridgeshire winner Majestic was well found in the market, 100 to 30 favourite. Mahaba the champ came here on the back of a win. He was 4 to 1. And Honiton was a 7 to 1 shot. Savvy Victory, quite popular in the market at 15 to 2. Masakela was 8 to 1. Dual Identity was 9s. Toshiju 9s and 12 to 1. The winner, Cadillac, for the George Bowie team, who had a tremendous couple of days, ridden by Kevin Stott. Okay, let's have a look and see what happens in this race. And this is a very good performance, in my opinion, from Cadillac, who comes from stall 8. Majestic from stall 2 was in 2nd place. And the City's Phantom, at a massive price, was back in 3rd place. Now, we talked about an electric burst of speed and sustained speed from Emily Upjohn. And same comments to a degree are going to apply to what Cadillac achieved here. This was a horse who was held up in the early stages of the race and sprinted through the final 3 furlongs to win quite impressively and to run down horses who are much better placed than him. If we pick them out, the winner is here. He's plumb last in the green cap, being given a very patient ride. Then you've got Majestic, nice and handy, and you've got the 3rd home, the City's Phantom, handy as well. He is basically poorly positioned the way this race was run. And the front 2, City's Phantom and Majestic, they were in a good spot. Honington in a good spot as well, towards the outside. We know this was steadily run because of the finishing speed percentage of 112.86. So once again, they've gone steady and then sprinted. 12.86% quicker in the final 3 furlongs than the rest of the race. That's Cadillac. That's what he managed to achieve. Again, like the Emily Upjohn Coronation Cup win, it tells us they went quite steady, but that the winner has a very good turn of foot. He'll be angled to the outside, and he comes with a relentless run. Some of those that finished behind him perhaps didn't handle the firmish ground. Savvy Victory in the orange and yellow colours under Ryan Moore, being one point in case. He was eased right off by Ryan. That was a disappointing effort from him, but I think the ground was too firm for him. Now Cadillac has still got an absolute ton to do. Here he is, there. And Kevin Stott's going to try and find a way through, but ultimately he does the right thing. He angles out and gets a run. Keep an eye on Toshizu. Quite an eye-catching effort, this horse, in behind. Just too much to do, but runs on really strongly and posted some decent sectionals in the closing stage. He's finished 4th, but ran the fastest final 3 furlongs to Shizu of 32.87. Just poorly placed, going for a run down on the inside now. Here's Cadillac, brought to the outside to fire down 3 sub-11 second furlongs. The 7th, 10.31, the 8th, 10.44, and the 9th, 10.5. That is a sustained burst of speed over 3 furlongs from Cadillac that surged into the front, and his final 3 furlongs of 32.9 compared to the runner-up 33.61 tells us that he won decisively here, and he is very much back to his best. In the past, he's won a Group 2 contest. He won a listed contest for Jesse Harrington as well when blinkers were applied. And George Bowie, very clever this, he put cheek pieces on him here for the first time, and it has galvanised him to come back to his best. I'd say he's now back to the level that he showed when he won a Group 2 and when he won that listed race for Jesse Harrington. And remember, he was 2nd in the Wolferton at Royal Ascot last year, and he could be heading back there, you would have thought, this year. This was a triple-digit speed figure effort where he was poorly placed, yet was able to run down rivals who were not stopping, in Majestic in particular, and run away from them in the closing stages. Those 3 furlongs, 7, 8 and 9, you can look at them on the website under the results section. 10.3, 10.4, 10.5 from this horse in shot, Cadillac. Royal Ascot beckons, and I wouldn't put it past him to win the Wolferton this year. Time to have a look at the Betfred Oaks now. The Group 1 over 1.5 miles for the fillies, and Save the Last Dance strong in the market for Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore. 6 to 5 on. Soul Sister for the Gosdens and Frankie, 11 to 4. Eternal Hope at 12 to 1. And it was big prices the rest. The market had it that it was a 2-horse race between Save the Last Dance and Soul Sister, and the market was absolutely spot on, although the wrong way round, because it was Soul Sister who prevailed, and she did so from out wide in stall 10, and she beat Save the Last Dance, who came from stall number 4, and Carnarvon ran well, stall 9 in 3rd place. So when we looked at the Emily Upjohn race, the Coronation, we had a race that was quite a steadily run in the early stages, but produced a time that was 2.63 seconds quicker than this, the Oaks, and that's because Emily Upjohn quickened like a wild horse through the final 4 furlongs. This race was more strongly run, as evidenced by the finishing speed percentage, 108.34, so 8.34% quicker in the final 3 furlongs than the rest of the race. And essentially it was a race where Soul Sister, who was patiently ridden by Frankie, showed the sort of turn of foot that she displayed to win the Musidora. Again, we've got a race where a turn of foot has proved decisive. The first 2 races we've looked at so far in the verdict today, Emily Upjohn and Cadillac, that was the case in those races, and it was to an extent here, but she didn't quicken as smartly as Emily Upjohn, and her closing figures were good enough just to win the Oaks. A 10th furlong of 11.45, an 11th of 11.68 sealed the deal. Nothing could go with her as she sprinted through 10 and 11. Save the Last Dance was rallying and getting back at her in the closing stages, but the speed that she flashed in the Musidora was enough to land the Oaks. Remember, the Musidora at York, she fired 2 sub-11 second furlongs, where she was wildly impressive. Here, 11.45 and 11.68 was the best she could do. Now that's a function of the track, racing uphill in the closing stages, perhaps a function of going further, and I would say perhaps a little bit further than she actually wants to go. And it may well be that she'll always be better at 10 furlongs. For in the closing stages, I thought she looked like she was on fumes a bit, and Save the Last Dance was rallying and closing her down late on. Now this is where she's good. She comes good to the outside. I'll pick her out. Here she is. She's absolutely cantering. She's a filly with a nice turn of foot and a load of speed, and she uses that speed to put the field away. Frankie's still holding on to her between the 3 and the 2. He's not really gone for her just yet, but she's still run a decent furlong of 11.45, and now she's about to go 11.68. And that is just too much for Carnarvon, and too much for Save the Last Dance, who was always behind the bridle there on the inside. Perhaps found the ground a little bit too lively, and perhaps didn't handle the track great. So that little burst of speed there has taken Soul Sister to Oaks glory. Now look at Save the Last Dance. She just changed her legs there, and she's beginning to rally late on. I don't think Frankie was really easing down in the closing stages. I think that was as far as she wanted to go, Soul Sister. But I put it to you that if this had been a 10 furlong contest, she would have thrashed them. She'd have sprinted by them, and she'd have won easier than she actually did in the end. The race itself, well, there was not much depth to it. The market told us that much, but Save the Last Dance had been wildly impressive when winning at Chester, and she's been easily beaten, you'd say, by Soul Sister. Save the Last Dance surely will be a good filly with a little bit more ease in the ground over this sort of trip going forward. But Soul Sister, on the other hand, she can definitely come back down in trip, given the speed that she's shown in her last couple of starts. What a day for Dettori and the Gosdens as well. A Group 1 double, Coronation Cup with Emily Upjohn, and now the Oaks as well. Soul Sister, not as quick through the final 4 furlongs as Emily Upjohn, but quick enough to land this Fillies Classic. A word for Carnarvon, that's a very good effort in 3rd place. Getting a little bit tired in the closing stages, but was only just beaten for 2nd by saved the last dance. So I wouldn't give up on for Aidan O'Brien, with a little bit more ease in the ground, and perhaps the Curragh, stiff Curragh over 1.5 miles with a little bit more ease, the Irish Oaks might be hers. And I wouldn't put it past her to reverse form with Soul Sister over 1.5 miles if they met under those sort of circumstances. Stiff track with a little bit of cut in the ground. But John and Thady Gosden, they've got a decision to make now as far as this filly is concerned. She's a Musidora winner, she's an Oaks winner, she's quite lightly raced, there's going to be more to come. But what trip will we see her at next? Dettori delighted in the sun at Epsom. Let's have a look at the showpiece event, the blue-ribboned, the Epsom Derby, for which a rest was the quite well-backed favourite, Frankie Dettori, on board for the Gosdens to complete a tremendous couple of days if he were to win. Auguste Rodin 9-2 along with Military Order. The Foxes 7s, 8-1 Passenger, 12-1 White Birch. Spreewell 14s, 18 San Antonio, a bit of money for that, and it was 22-1 and bigger the rest. Well, success once again in the Derby for Aidan O'Brien. He has got a tremendous record in the race. It's his 9th win, and Auguste Rodin jumped from stall number 10, just at the end of that bank there. A King of Steel, what a run from this horse on his 3rd career start for Roger Varian. He was in 2nd place. White Birch from 2, finished 3rd and ran an absolute blinder, given a very patient ride. And Spreewell is worth following through the race. This horse gets hampered a couple of times and is better than the Bear result. Right, let's send them on the way in what looked to be, I think, a pretty strong Derby. We had horses represented in the Dante, the Lingfield Derby trial. Auguste Rodin trying to put behind him that poor effort in the 2,000 guineas, and he puts it behind him in style. This is a tremendous performance. He is a top-class, world-class individual, in my opinion. And as he gallops out in the closing stages, I think he just looks like Galileo. He seems to gallop exactly like him, but he's by Deep Impact out of a Galileo mare, the brilliant Rhododendron. So he's bred to win a Derby, and win it he does. Ryan Moore, always confident throughout this contest. The race, it wasn't run at a blinding gallop but whatsoever. The finishing speed percentage, 116.28%. Now that's courtesy of San Antonio. He made the running. Now, I suspect that they didn't want to go too fast for Auguste Rodin, because he could have gone quicker out in front. There's 2 Aidan O'Brien horses up front there. They didn't seem to want to go a furious gallop. Whether by design or not, I don't know, but that's how they wanted to play it. And Auguste Rodin was able to just draft in midfield, never getting any trouble whatsoever, never having his momentum checked, and always in a good place to come and attack. Pick him out now. He's about mid-div, sat there with the white face at this stage, just on the bridle, in behind Military Order, who disappoints. Perhaps the ground was a little bit too firm for Military Order. You need to make note of White Birch, who's right out the back, the grey horse that runs an absolute blinder, and this horse's sectionals were pretty good in the closing stages. So we had quite a steady early gallop, but the pace picked up in furlongs 9 and 10, and that is where King of Steel takes up the running and kicks for home, but then will be run down in the closing stages by Auguste Rodin. King of Steel is down here on the inside under Kevin Stott. He runs an absolute blinder, and perhaps you could mark him up a little bit. Now, the winner's finishing splits, really impressive. 33.01 for the final 3 furlongs. Wow, he's really fast horse, Auguste Rodin. He's just not a stayer. This wasn't a staying performance. He's quick. In fact, his final 3 furlongs were quicker than Emily Upjohn. He ran 11.13, 10.83, 10.73, 11.45 to run down King of Steel, who got first run on Auguste Rodin, but he couldn't maintain his advantage because Auguste Rodin is just too fast, firing that 10.73 11th furlong to catch King of Steel and then go 11.45 to put him in his place. And they pull 5 lengths clear of White Birch, who's run an absolute blinder from a poor position the way the race was run. The Foxes also running well in behind. Now, as we look at the head-on, got to ask a question, and it has to be asked. Did King of Steel kick too soon? Could Kevin Stott have sat for another half a furlong and then gone? And would that have propelled him to victory if he'd adopted that particular approach? Well, it wouldn't have done him any harm, and I think he was beating himself up afterwards. But I put it to you that Auguste Rodin was so quick through those final furlongs, was so good, that even if Kevin Stott had waited a bit longer, I think Auguste Rodin would still have got him. Because what Auguste Rodin has gone and done here is give first run to the second horse. The second horse is sprinting. He's sprinting fast sectionals, yet Auguste Rodin can still run him down and get to him and win perhaps a shade cosily in the end. So I don't really think that it made a lot of difference. And I think if Kevin Stott is beating himself up about it, well, I don't think he should really. He could have waited, yes, and it might have increased his horse's chances of winning the Derby. But I think he was run down by a very good horse, a really legitimate Derby winner, and there's going to be a lot more to come from Auguste Rodin going forward. I want to mention the Foxes, who weakened in the closing stage. You see him there in 5th place. He ran really solid, fast sectionals in the 9th and 10th furlong, but he seemed not to stay. He seemed not to get the trip in the end, and he weakened markedly in the final furlong, according to the sectionals. So perhaps you could mark him up a little bit. And Sprewell as well, got trouble in running for Jessica Harrington team, and had to be checked, and was the only horse in the race to really get any sort of trouble. So Sprewell needs marking up. But this horse's finishing splits, this Derby winner's finishing splits, were hugely impressive. And he's run down a horse who's sprinting in front of him. Look at him there. What a good-looking individual he is. Son of Deep Impact. Deep Impacts over the years have always wanted decent ground, fast ground. And that's what he got here. Brilliantly delivered by Ryan Moore. Timed to perfection in the Derby that I think will prove to be a very good one. And I think this horse is world class. Let's have a look at the Betfred Leicester Picket Handicap now. It was at 3:55 on Saturday afternoon. It was over 1.25 miles. And Fox Journey for Sir Michael Stout, who's got a good record in this race, was the 3-1 favourite on the back of his win at Newmarket. Torito was 4-1. It was also 4-1 balance play. Masai Mara 15-2 and 8s, and bigger the rest. And it was Torito who wins this, and wins it in some style for the Gosdens. Benoit de la Sayette on board, and I think seen to very good effect here on Torito, who jumped from stall number 4. Silver Sword finished 2nd from 3. Balance Play was 3rd from 6. And Masai Mara was 4th from stall 5. Fox Journey, the grey horse, down on the inside, who went off favourite. So Michael Stout was back in 6th. He got a bit of trouble in running. He's worth marking up a tad. But this winner was hugely impressive. He wins this off a mark of 95. And once again, we are dealing with a sharp turn of foot in the race that was not that strongly run. Finishing speed percentage of 116.38 here. Now that is a function of the gallop to a degree, which was steady, but it's also very much a function of how fast this horse is on this ground. He really let himself down, and he flew home through the final couple of furlongs to win this race very readily indeed. The leader will kick coming down the hill. That's where the pace picked up. And Torito then will go in pursuit and run him down very comfortably in the end. I think he's just basically a group horse already. He got in off 95 here, but I do think he'll win a group race. I don't have much doubt about that, to be honest, the way he goes about winning this. So the kick now, this is when the pace increased markedly according to the sectionals. You can see Benoit just moving into 5th upside the grey horse, angling to the outside. And now Torito is going to fire some impressive splits. Splits you don't often see in this sort of grade. 10.46 and a 10.48. That's through furlongs 8 and 9. And he's doing so not under maximum pressure. He looks to hang down the camber there in the white colours, look. But Benoit's able to straighten him up pretty readily. He's not gone for his stick yet. Changes his hands there, then changes his whip hand to keep him on the straight and narrow. And there's his final 3 furlongs, 32.54. Even 12s, he'd be doing 36, but oh no, this horse has sprinted to do 32.54. The second best final 3 furlongs in the race, Promoter, who finished in 5th place, so he's worth keeping an eye on. He ran 33.05, so he went home very strongly to finish 5th in the end. That was a good effort from him, but this winner is really good. He's not a handicapper. Handicaps no more, I say, for Torito. Lightly raced. There's going to be more to come. And I thought Benoit de la Sayette was really good in the closing stages there. Just changing his hands and heels, nursing him to the front. Then when he wanted to hang down the camber, quickly changed his whip hand and straightened him out, and Torito went on to win very comfortably. Just keep an eye on Promoter going forward. Perhaps your racing TV tracker, the place for that horse. Torito, group races beckon. Now then, let's have a look at the controversial Dash, the Heritage Handicap over 5 furlongs on Saturday afternoon. Live in the Moment, 6-1, 13-2 Clarendon House, 15-2 Vintage Clarets, Ancient Times 8s, 17-2 Silky Wilkie, and Zarzini well back, 17-2 from 11s, Lihu 11s, 14s, and bigger the rest. And why was it controversial? It's controversial because of what happened at the start. All of these stalls here, all the way along, opening at once. However, towards the inside, you've got 18, 19, 20 and 16 there. They remain shut for a split second, and those horses quite well supported in the market. Stall 16 was Ancient Times, who was 8-1 and finished 15th. Stall 18 is Lihu, who was 11-1 and finished 20th. Stall 19 Vintage Clarets, 15-2, finished 14th. And stall 20, the front runner, Live in the Moment, the favourite, 6-1 Fav, finished 17th. So from that, you can deduce that they were very much inconvenienced by what happened at the start in this race. Let's have a look now and see what happens as the stalls open. Well, Live in the Moment pitches. Jockey briefly loses his iron. Race over for that horse. And indeed, all of those drawn high were never seen with any sort of chance in this race, which went in the end to Novello from 5, Silky Wilkie second from 7, who was a bit unlucky, Clarendon House third from 2, and Zarzini well backed 4th from stall number 8. Quite simply, it was not a level playing field out there, really. Those drawn high never had any chance. The stewards had a look at this race and they decided that the race itself was not materially affected by what happened at the start. But surely it's not a good look for racing, and it's no good for punters who'd got involved, for example, in Live in the Moment, who was well back, so they thought he'd make all the running against what is normally a favoured rail. Well, he had no chance of doing that, and some of the other horses in the race that were drawn high just simply had no chance of winning the contest. So you can see from that shot there, these horses down here, who would normally want to break well and take advantage of the rail, got no chance. They're a length or two down. I mean, look at the leader here. He's got 2 or 3 lengths. Look at Live in the Moment compared to that horse there. 3, 4 lengths. I don't know how far. It's hard to judge, but it definitely had an effect on the race, in my opinion. I suppose the stewards had an option, really. They could have declared Ancient Times, Lihu, Vintage Clarets and Live in the Moment non-runners, perhaps, for the sake of betting purposes, or they could have voided the race. They decided to do neither in the end, and I'm sure there's quite a few disgruntled punters out there on the back of the Dash. Novello, I want to just mention him because this is George Bowie working his magic again. Remember Cadillac earlier in the show? First time cheek pieces. Guess what? Novello, first time cheek pieces. George Bowie, good when he applies headgear to them. And Novello down the middle of the track in the blue and yellow colours, just going past Clarendon House and Silky Wilkie, then running on and grabbing second place. Controversial end to the verdict this week, but I hope you enjoyed looking back at the Coronation Cup. Sensational win for Emily Upjohn. The Oaks, a really good winner in the shape of Soul Sister, and a brilliant winner of the Derby. He's a champion, Auguste Rodin. See you next time.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.